All right, so I've decided to open up a bunch of these Superman characters this week because apparently there's a Superman movie coming out. So it seemed like a good time to do it. Uh, I'm hearing a lot of mixed things about the movie. A lot of people seem to really love it. A lot of people seem to not so much love it. But, I kind of don't want to be raining on people's parades. If you want to enjoy it, that's cool. But I think I'm gonna skip it. Don't let that ruin your enjoyment of it though. If you enjoy it, you enjoy it, and that's good as far as I'm concerned. Like, people should be allowed to enjoy things. There's enough stuff in this world to not enjoy. So, but personally, I think I'm starting to think it might be a good idea that I decided to give this one a pass. But anyway, that isn't going to stop me from opening up a bunch of Superman action figures this week because I figure it's a good week to do it. And today we got Supergirl. It doesn't say Woman of Tomorrow, but that's the comic it's based on. So that's what I decided to title the video. Plus, I wanted to separate it from the other Supergirl figure that I opened up. We're gonna talk about both of these because I want to do some comparison with the previous Supergirl figure because they do share some parts, but there's also a few parts that are different. And at the time, I didn't notice this, but I'm pretty sure that this figure actually shares a lot of parts with the Nightfall Catwoman figure, specifically her tummy and her legs and most of her arms. Like, I didn't even notice that the way the arms are sculpted on this one. It's the Catwoman gloves. Like, I just thought it was kind of a weird bicep joint, but no, it's Catwoman gloves. And so let's go ahead and open her up, have a look at it. So this is based on a comic book that I think was written by Tom King. I never actually read this comic book. I know that Tom King is a guy that there are certain fans that really like him and certain fans that don't. So he's kind of divisive. But what I read of Tom King's was that Injustice miniseries from a while back, and that I did enjoy. So I can honestly say that. But also, there was that thing where they aged up Jonathan Kent, and that wasn't really his fault. That was something Brian Michael Bendis had done. And you see, I got to cut this thing open with scissors. Hopefully, I didn't mess up the comic book. It doesn't look like I did. And something fell on the floor. What fell on the floor? I bet it was the figure stand. No, it wasn't the figure stand. I guess it was just some piece of plastic. I felt something fall, but now I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just something I knocked over. Oh, well, I don't see anything. Maybe I didn't drop anything. So we got the trading card in here, and it's all beat to hell already. So I'm not going to be as careful as I might pulling it out of there. But look at, there's all kinds of marks in it, and it's bent up. It's a nice piece of artwork. I don't know who this artist is, but the artwork's nice. There's what the back looks like, and it reads, Page Punchers, Supergirl, real name Kara Zor-El. An alien girl seeks out a melancholy, directionless Kara Zor-El to help her take revenge on the bad guys who destroyed her world. Now a Kryptonian, a dog, an angry, heartbroken child head into space on a journey that will shake them to their very core. And like I said, I haven't read this comic. Supposedly, this is the comic that when they make the Supergirl movie. Well, they're making it right now, but it should be kind of based on this comic. So, like I said, the artwork's nice, and there's that sword that comes with her. So I guess that explains where this sword comes from. So I'll have to read it later. But kind of a Conan-looking character here, and I like Conan. So. And the artwork reminds me a lot of Mobius, which Mobius being one of the greatest comic book artists of all time, certainly the greatest French comic book artist of all time. Yeah, definitely a comic. Lone Dragon says, comic? What a nerd. Yep, that's me. You have described me accurately, sir. But yeah, I'll give this a read later. if nothing else, I'm sure I'm going to enjoy this artwork. The artwork's great. So that's my brief overview of the comic that I haven't read. So let's go ahead and get Supergirl herself out of the package now. And did I talk about the? I don't think I talked about the figure stand. Although you've heard me talk about figure stands before, you know what I'm going to say. You know what I'm going to say by now. It's your typical matte black figure stand with a glossy DC logo embossed onto it, as usually comes with the DC Direct figures. All right. So she's got some accessories. She's got the sword that I was talking about. And if I'd read the comic, I would know what was up with this sword, but I do not. But it is definitely a sword that we see in the comic, and it looks very accurate to how the sword is drawn in that comic. So let's go ahead and set that aside for the moment. And then we've got a couple of extra hands, which are fist type hands, which are good to have for a page puncher's figure. That way she can punch some pages. Jose says, too bad Red Sonja did not come in a fig, did she? Oh, she's got some, actually. Boss Fight Studios has made a few. I don't know if they're out yet, but they're on the way. I know that I ordered the Masters of the Universe Origins type Red Sonja. I don't remember what that line is called, but you can find them on Big Bad Toy Store for pre-order. Loading Dragon says, flying characters should always come with flight stands. Yes. That's another thing that I often say about figure stands. And I'll say that again this time. I will reiterate, I will co-sign what Lone Dragon said. Flying characters should always come with flight stands. All right, so let's see. She's got rubber tabs holding her in the package, of course, and it's just looks like it's just one of the double rubber tabs around her waist. So that should make this pretty easy, providing I can find what I did with my X-Acto knife, because I'm always misplacing that thing. And I managed to cut one of them, but not both of them. All right, there we go. So let's get her out of the package. And one thing that I notice about this one is that she's got like her hair has a lot more body to it. It's a lot fuller than a lot curlier, a lot more dynamic in terms of how it's posed than our previous Supergirl figure, where like, you know, it's nice enough hair, but it just kind of hangs down under her shoulders like hair does. This is hair that's been like caught up in the wind and it's flowing about and, you know, looks very, like I said, dramatic. So we saw the two fist hands that come with the figures, and the hands that she comes with actually on the figure is she has one gripping hand, which is good because she comes with a sword. You want her to be able to hold her sword, right? And one kind of saluting, kind of karate choppy, kind of flying hand, whatever you wanna do for it. Or we can have her give a nice salute. That's a little more Christopher Reeve, but what are we gonna do? Lone Dragon says when you can't find your exact O knife, an almost O knife might work. Yeah. All right. So, to compare the two Supergirl figures, this one I think improves on the previous figure in one important way. Like I said, this is just Catwoman legs they reused on this. And you can see there's no, yeah, we're getting an upskirt shot. Don't get too excited, fellas. It's just an action figure. Uh, but you can see that oh, Butter Knife. Yeah, that's Blade's cousin. Jose Membrane says Butter Knife. So, but she's got like red tights, like tall red boots that go up all the way under the skirt and red tights. Whereas this Supergirl actually has just long red boots, and you can see that she has flesh-colored legs. I like that because it breaks up the red a little bit more. And traditionally, Supergirl usually has like bare legs. So even if they decided to give her tights, I think blue tights would have worked better since you know, again, it would have broke up the red a little bit more. Broken up the red. There. Okay. So and you can see that as her like how her hair is whipping about from the wind, so is her skirt kind of blowing up a bit. She has this really thick gold belt, which is you know, again, how she's drawn in this comic book. They kind of drew the belt a bit thicker than where you're used to the Supergirl belt is being drawn. So I guess since she's got this nice wired cape, another improvement over the previous figure, I can have her hair being blown, or her, I'm sorry, her cape being blown in the same direction as her hair is what I meant to say, and the skirt and everything. It all blows in the same direction, which it looks like that's the way it's blowing on the cover of the comic. So I'm guessing they were very much looking at the cover of this comic when they were setting everything up. She is holding the sword indeed in her left hand, which is the hand that is a gripping hand on this figure. Now I know I set that sword right here. So let's go ahead and we're going to put the sword in her hand and let's try to get her into a pose as much like the comic book cover as possible. Now, one thing that I like better on this Supergirl figure is her face because she has a little bit more of a neutral expression. I think that's a nicer face, whereas this one looks a little more sour. And maybe that befits the tone of the comic, which, like I said, I haven't read, and apparently Supergirl has rather a sour tone in the comic. But I like for my Supergirl to be sweet. That's how I like my Supergirl. So, and if we really want this to be close to the cover of the comic, what we want to do is swap out the right hand, take off this open hand, and put the fist hand on there because she's got a fist hand on the cover of the comic. So there we go. There's our Supergirl, and try to get the cape whipped in the right shape. And it looks like I almost had it in the right shape already, but not quite. It does look like this cape is a little shorter than what would be required to get the cape in the proper shape that it is on the comic book cover, which is not to say that it's too long of a cape for Supergirl. It's about the right length for Supergirl. And then her sword should be tipped up a little bit more. Not quite like she's channeling the power of Grayskull, but fairly close to it. I wonder if this is a direct homage to the Sword of Superman special from the 1980s. There's a cover I remember. And yeah, I think that's with this arm tilted down a little bit more. I think that's about as close as I can get it. So that's probably going to be the thumbnail right there. I'm probably going to try to, and I'll probably like tilt the sword a little bit more downward though for the thumbnail, just so we can see the sword a little bit better in the thumbnail. And for now, I'm going to take the sword out of her hand because we're going to talk about the articulation. And Lone Dragon says maybe she liked them long. Well, that's none of my business. So, and this is a really nice wired cape. This is a lot like it's got the wire all the way around the edge of it, which is as I like it because then you can get some really cool poses out of it. And I don't remember if I pointed out she does indeed have the Superman emblem on the back of her cape. So, for those of you who are sticklers for sticklers for having the Superman emblem on the cape, there it is. So that's good. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the articulation. Supergirl can turn her head all the way around, although the long hair does kind of bump into the shoulders a little bit. That's to be expected. She can look down about that far. She can only look up about that far, again, because of the hair. Can't really tilt her head to the side that much. There's a little bit of movement, but again, the hair, what are you going to do? The arms rotate all the way around at the shoulders, of course, and they've got that cool Mcfarlane butterfly joint that'll wiggle around each way. She's got the same arms as the other Supergirl, which are the same arms as Catwoman. So they rotate all the way around at the bicep. She does have a bicep cut, and you can see that she still has that Catwoman glove on there. Double jointed elbows, excellent range of motion we get at the elbows. And then the cool Mcfarlane ball jointed wrists, those move around any which way we want to. She's about to punch some pages right now. Oh yeah. So and she's got this good Mcfarlane torso articulation, which rotates all the way around, wobbles back and forth whichever way you want. Again, she's got that same Catwoman torso or abdomen where you can see the zipper in there. But yeah, you can get a lot of good dramatic poses out of her. Thankfully, since you can tilt the torso up fairly well, you can still get her into some good flight poses where she's looking ahead, even though her head doesn't tilt back all the way. So that's nice. And then Supergirl can kick up about that far, which is not very far, but she's got a plastic skirt. So even with it being a somewhat flexible kind of plastic, it's still getting caught up on it. For those of you who want to know, she's got blue underpants underneath, which to me suggests that this is actually like a one piece leotard, so you're not actually seeing her underpants. That's part of the leotard. It's part of her outfit. So no panty shots for you this time. Ha ha ha. Let's see. She does have a little bit of wobble here at the where the hips meet, just a little bit, just enough so you can get some good posing out of it. And then you get a double jointed knee. That's about the range of motion you get at the knee. And then, of course, she's got the cool Mcfarlane ankle articulation, which rotates all the way around where the ankle meets the shin and where the ankle meets the foot. And you can really pose that any which way you want to and get some good poses going out of that. She is an awesome looking figure. I like the face a little bit better than I thought I was going to. It is she does have kind of a sour expression, but it's not quite as angry as I worried that it would be. And I kind of figured worst case scenario, I could do a head swap between these two and have the more neutral expression on this figure. But because I do like this figure better because of mainly because of the way they did the legs. The legs are much improved. Everything else to me on this seems kind of like a lateral move, except for the legs and the cape and the head, which I like slightly. I still like this head slightly better, but the skirt. Both these skirts are good. I do like this shade of blue a little bit better because this matches with some of the more recent Superman figures. Like I haven't opened up this guy yet, but you can see that her blue matches this Superman figure a lot better than this one. And they're not the same exact shade of blue. They're a slightly different shade of blue. I'll try to remember to have her over here when I open up this guy so we can compare a little better. Jose Membrane says the wired cape is super cool. I wish my Spawn figures came like that in the 1990s. Yeah, like I guess they hadn't really got to the point where they could really do stuff like that back then. But yeah, I do remember that Spawn was some of the earliest figures that really had those molded capes. And Spawn was a character that required, I think, that molded cape if you really wanted to match the Todd McFarlane art style and the way he draws capes. And let's face it, in the early days of Spawn, that was like a big part of the appeal, is that Todd McFarlane was the star of that book, not the character. Like anybody that likes Spider-Man is gonna buy a Spider-Man comic, no matter who the artist is, and they might be more excited about, say, Todd McFarlane than Sal Buscema or what have you. But that doesn't mean they're not gonna buy that Sal Buscema Spider-Man comic. I bought plenty of Sal Buscema Spider-Man comics and plenty of Todd McFarlane Spider-Man comics. But on a character like Spawn that was a brand new character and nobody really knew that character yet, it's like, oh, cool. Todd McFarlane's doing a new comic and he made his own character. So let's check that out. And yeah, so the Lone Dragon says, yes, the technological leaps in sewing over the well, yeah, I sense your slight sarcasm there, but I'm not just talking about sewing in general. I'm talking about like the kind of effort that people are willing to go through in terms of making an action figure. You got to remember that, like, in the 1990s, an action figure cape was still pretty much the same as this, where they just kind of, took a piece of fabric and sewed it around a plastic clamp that goes around his neck to hold it on. Now, that having been said, that was like the peak of action figure cape technology. And if you had a cape like that, that was one of the good capes. That was one of the capes that I liked. Or you could just have a piece of vinyl that was basically like a long vest that went around their shoulders, like on the Star Wars figures. And even when I was 3 years old, I thought that was a very disappointing action figure cape. I wanted something a little more substantial. But that's just me. Anyway, where was I? I was talking about this. She's a really good figure. And I know a lot of people, uh, since this was a Target exclusive that was not very well distributed, I found this figure once and I spent money that I probably shouldn't have really spent at the time to pick this figure up. And I was glad that I did because I never saw her again. But this gives people another chance to get a good basic classic Supergirl figure. Lone Dragon says, "You don't wear your capes with a plastic clip around your neck." No, I don't. That's a very uncomfortable way to do that. Usually, whenever I've worn capes in recent times, uh, usually at like a comic book convention or something, I try to do the cape in such a way where it's like the Christopher Reeve Superman cape. This is how I did my Batman Brave and the Bold costume all those years ago. Is I had the like ties that went down under your shoulder and tie around your back, and it tucks it into the spandex outfit, and that gives it that look that a Superman cape has, where like on Supergirl here, where it kind of tucks into the shoulders and everything like that. But that way, when it attaches in the back, it holds it. That's the best way I found to put on a superhero cape. So that's just my opinion, though. So anyway, I figure that's pretty much it for Supergirl. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know I enjoyed doing the episode. Jose Membrane says, "I wear my cape with the rough part of the Velcro towards my neck." Oh, well, you're a tougher man than I am. But that's it for Supergirl. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please make sure you like and subscribe and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Supergirl, both the character in general, this figure specifically. And let me know what you think about the Woman of Tomorrow comic book that I've not had a chance to. If you've read that one, let me know your review of the comic book in the comments below, because I think I would like to hear that. Next episode, I'm going to open up this. That is the Superman False God Platinum Edition. Oh, yeah. So this is an action figure of a statue. For a guy who doesn't collect statues, I sure will buy an action figure of a statue. But yeah, see, even has a picture of the statue on the back. So that's going to be the next figure we're going to open. We still got a lot more. It's going to be more Superman figures to open than I'm going to be able to fit into this week. So I'm going to have that. I'm going to have Kingdom Come. I'm going to have some other things. So, and so I figure I'll probably do that one, then Kingdom Come, and then this guy. I figure that's probably going to be the order I go in. So we're actually getting to the actual Superman figures. We've gotten past the two Superman villains and Superman's cousin, and now we're on to the Man of Steel himself. Lone Dragon says, "Since when does Mcfarlane make statues?" Since at least the late 1990s, I think. I remember when Mcfarlane first started doing figures, they had really good articulation for the time. And then eventually they got into more like the kind of staction figure kind of thing. And that was something I was really not into. I like having a lot of articulation on my figures. And I kind of stopped paying attention to McFarlane figures entirely for a while because of that. Because it's like, not that they're bad figures, but it's just not what I was into with the statue type stuff. So when I heard they got the DC license, I was kind of like, oh, great. They're not going to be able to move, are they? But I hadn't realized, since I hadn't been paying attention, that McFarlane had gone back to more articulated figures. And then I was really excited. But oh yeah, I should say also before I close this one out that she does have the same legs from the knees on down, and the same feet, and I mentioned before, the same arms, the same torso, the same abs. Basically everything except for the skirt and the head is the same sculpt. So anyway, that's it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.